Hi everyone, my name is Jen, otherwise known as Miss Ross, and I am a Scottish primary teacher. I know that a lot of you that watch my videos are aspiring future primary teachers, and in today's video I wanted to give you my tips and advice for writing a personal statement for teacher training, more specifically primary teaching, but I do feel like there are some helpful bits in here that could help if you're thinking of applying to be a secondary teacher. Just a wee disclaimer, this is obviously based on my own experience writing a personal statement. I am going to give you some examples of some of the things that I wrote for my personal statement, and this is going to be based on applying for Scottish universities, but I know that there are lots of things in here that might help if you are applying elsewhere as well, so hopefully you'll still find it helpful. I'm just going to start off by giving you my short and sweet tips for writing a personal statement, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail about some of those areas. So tip number one is to avoid cliches. It's kind of in the name. This is a personal statement and it should be personalised to you and unique to you. The people reading your application are going to be reading potentially hundreds of other applications, and you really want to try and stand out and make sure that your personal statement is unique, so try to avoid phrases that you think lots of other people might also say. Tip number two is to be concise. Especially when you're applying for teacher training and they want you to talk a lot about the experience that you already have working with children, it can be so easy to list and spend a lot of time talking about the things that you've done but not really expanding on them. You've got to try not to be overly descriptive about things, so keep it to the point. It's important to point out that you do have a character limit. You want to get the most that you can out of that word count, so don't waste words on descriptive vocabulary. My tip number three would be to structure it clearly. Someone is going to be reading this. You want it to read nicely, to flow nicely and have a good pace, and not be jumping from topic to topic on each new line. Tip number four is an obvious one, especially if you're applying for teacher training, but make sure you avoid making any spelling or grammatical errors. I cannot stress the importance of proofreading it enough. I also wouldn't rely on a spelling or grammar checker online. I would make sure that you send it to someone that you trust to read it over and make sure that there's no obvious mistakes. It would be so frustrating to be rejected for something as silly as a grammar or a spelling mistake, and if you are going into a career in teaching, then this is something that they're going to be looking for, so make sure that it is all accurate. Tip number five is to make sure you sell yourself. You want to convince the person reading your personal statement as to why they should choose you for this course. Make sure you really highlight the skills and experience that you have and the qualities that you have that will make you a great teacher. Tip number six is to make sure that you give evidence to back up any points that you make. For example, if you're writing a sentence to say that one of your strengths is that you're incredibly organised, then make sure you then follow that up with an example of a time where you have showed good organisation skills. And that leads me on to number seven, which is to make sure you link everything back to teaching or the course that you're wanting to study. Okay, so those were just my quick fire tips on how to write an effective personal statement, but now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about things that I think you should be including and how to kind of structure your personal statement. So before you even start writing your personal statement, I would definitely recommend making a mind map or bullet pointing lots of ideas just to empty your brain. Think about all of the things that you're going to want to talk about. I would recommend having a list of your different skills and strengths, and also a list about the experience that you have working with children. On top of that, make sure to include any of your additional skills or interests, if you completed your Duke of Edinburgh award, or if you have any wider achievements outside of school or work. It can be really tricky to talk about our strengths and to sell ourselves, so if this is something that you're struggling with, I would definitely recommend chatting to your friends and family, and they'll be able to help you to identify things that might be selling points about yourself. Also, have a think about why you really want to be a teacher and what you could bring to the job. So moving on, let's talk about the first paragraph and how to get started writing your personal statement. I feel like sometimes getting started is the hardest part, but the most important thing is just starting to get your ideas down on paper and starting to play around with words and figure out how you're going to write it. You're going to be doing a lot of proofreading, a lot of editing, so don't stress too much about the very first thing you write being the final piece. I personally think it's a lot easier cutting down things and changing things that you've already written. Also, if you are struggling getting started, then sometimes the introduction can be the trickiest part to write, so you might want to start focusing on another section of your essay and come back to the introduction later on. Your first paragraph is going to be the first thing that this person reads about you, and you really want to try and draw them in and pique their interest. As I said earlier on, they're going to be reading potentially hundreds of other candidates' personal statements, and you want yours to be the one that stands out. This is their first impression of you, and you want them to get a feel for the type of person that you are. are. I would definitely recommend that your first paragraph is where you discuss the reason that you want to be a teacher and you really try and show your passion for this career. I touched on this one earlier on, but try to avoid those cliches like, for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a teacher, because those are the things that everyone's going to say. You want to make your personal statement personal and unique to you. Have a think about whether there was a specific experience that you had that confirmed your desire to be a teacher. It could be a relationship that you built with an inspirational teacher, or it could be a memorable learning experience that you had as a pupil. This is going to be completely unique to you, but you need to remember that you do have a word count, so don't spend too long talking about someone else or describing a memory that you had. Try to focus more on the impact that it has had from you. What did you learn from that experience and how has it made you want to be a teacher? Another angle that you could start off your personal statement with is thinking about what your goal is as a future teacher. For example, if you can speak another language, then you might want to write about how one day you hope to inspire and motivate young people to learn a language. Or if you're highly skilled in digital technology, maybe you want to talk about how you intend to use your skills to teach pupils the skills that they need for life and work. If you are entering teaching, following another career, or later on in your life, then this can be a really good way to incorporate some of the skills that you already have and how you want to apply these as a teacher. Following your introductory paragraph, you're going to want to start introducing some of the skills and experience that you have. I would definitely recommend trying to discuss these hand in hand, so talking about an experience that you had working with young people and the skill that you developed as a result of that. So think about making a brief statement about what it is you did. For example, volunteering at an after school club. What was it specifically that you did, and what were the skills that you learned as a result of that? Once you discuss an experience and skill that you have, make sure you then relate it back to the classroom and how it would apply for a teacher. Something that I do get asked about a lot is how to write a personal statement when you don't have a lot of experience working with children. I would definitely say that if you are applying for primary teaching, then it is very important that you have experience in some shape or form. It is possible to talk about transferable skills that you've learned in another context, as long as you link that to how it would then apply in the classroom. For example, something along the lines of, my role as a schoolhouse captain allowed me to work effectively in a team environment and develop strong communication skills. As a future teacher, these skills will allow me to work effectively in partnership with a variety of professionals to support each learner to reach their fullest potential. Obviously, I can't tell you what to write for this section because it is going to depend on your unique skills and qualities, but have a think about the different skills and qualities that are required for an excellent primary teacher and try and see if you can relate to those. Throughout your personal statement, it's also important that you try and make reference to the job and show that you have an understanding of the Scottish curriculum. This is where you might want to do a little bit of research about current educational policies. So for example, here in Scotland, the purpose of Curriculum for Excellence, the purpose of our curriculum is to help children to become confident individuals, responsible citizens, effective contributors, and successful learners. These are known as the 4 capacities. We are all about getting it right for every child and supporting every child to reach their fullest potential. I definitely think that dropping in a little bit of knowledge about the Scottish Curriculum for Excellence will show that you are motivated to enter this profession. It doesn't need to be a whole paragraph, but just carefully think about your wording throughout. So for example, when you're talking about your skills and your interests, how could you link this to the Scottish curriculum? If you volunteer at a sports club, then you can talk about how this experience has made you confident teaching physical education, and talk about how you're passionate about promoting positive mental health and well-being, and that you know this is a main focus of the Curriculum for Excellence because health and well-being is a responsibility of all. I would definitely recommend thinking about where your skill set is. Is it in languages? Is it in STEM subjects? Music? Outdoor learning? What could you bring to the table, and how does this relate to what's going on in education at the moment? Another tip that I would give is to make sure that you recognise the challenges that come with being a teacher and that you are prepared to enter this profession. For example, I understand that teachers face a lot of challenges, especially in making lessons accessible for all pupils. I am a leader at my local sports ability club, where I have learned valuable lessons about how to plan and differentiate PE sessions for a diverse spectrum of pupil needs. Your skills and experience should definitely take up the main bulk of this essay. Once you're happy that you have included all of the essential details, it's time to write your concluding statement. Try not to end the whole thing too abruptly. I would definitely recommend trying to come up with a summarising sentence. I feel that my skills, qualities and experience make me an excellent candidate for the primary teaching course. If you were successful, what would you really hope to get out of this course? You could finish off with a statement about why you think you'll make a great primary teacher. My most important tip of all is just to make sure you show that you're enthusiastic and passionate about becoming a teacher. Anyway, I really hope that you found this video helpful. It's given you some ideas of the sorts of things that you're going to write for your personal statement. If you did, then please make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more teaching related content. I will see you all in my next video. Bye!